Welcome back to the panel discussion on Driving Innovation for India 2030. Now I take the honor of introducing our panel moderator for today's conference, Mr. Dilip Patki, Executive Director, Ernst & Young. Mr. Patki is currently working for EY as Executive Director, leading the finance and financial services practice. He has enriched in his career with 25 years of work experience. His strength lies in building practices and teams from scratch and growing them. His first decade of work experience has been primarily in IT's industry. He then challenged himself to change the industries to learn more about technology side of the world. Now, Mr. Dilip is a potent combination of business and technology consulting, and that's exactly what's needed for any transformation engagement. Mr. Patki is a fitness freak and has participated in many marathons and ultra-marathon events. He completed his first half Ironman last January and is aiming for the second one next month. In his view, physical fitness and endurance has a strong role to play in the corporate world. I wish a hearty welcome to Mr. Patki and requesting you, sir, to kindly introduce the panelist. Over to you, sir.
Perfect. Thank you. Can you use the mic?
Yeah, this one or you need to call the mic.
I would prefer calling. Yeah. Mute. Okay. All right. Got it. Good morning, everyone. Can you guys hear me? Last row. Can you hear me? Yeah, still not working. But it's not working, right?
It's loud.
It's working? Okay, good. Good to know that. All right, so thank you for inviting us for this panel discussion. So, today's panel discussion, we have distinguished panel speakers, and it's my privilege and honor to introduce all of them and get to know more about what innovation means in their world, in their organization, what they've been doing, and ask relevant questions. And at the same time, I would request you all to make a note of questions, to get to know who the distinguished panel members are, and make note of questions so that you can ask them towards the end of the session. Is that okay? All right, okay. So starting off, to my left, I have Rahul. Rahul is a co-founder of an edtech startup, FinCurious. He has served as CFO, head of finance for various global and Indian startups like Vedantu, Rentomojo, and Near.com in the past. He has extensive experience of 14 plus years in fundraising, finance controllership, FP&A, business finance, and treasury. Rahul holds a host of qualifications: chartered accountant, company secretary, DISA, IFRS, valuation, blockchain technology, PMLA, PGDBA from IMT Ghaziabad, M&A from IIM Bangalore, and finance modeling from EY. He was an all-India rank holder, 15th in CA final, 2nd in CA Inter, 11th in CS final, and 25th in CS Inter. He's been awarded CA Business Leader 40 under 40 by ICAI and CNBC in 2023. He's also been awarded with CA Professional Achiever Services Sector 2016 by ICAI. He's also been awarded Rajya Puruskar by Government of West Bengal for excellence in scouting and service to mankind. He's also been an author of a book on startup finance. He's a veteran speaker and has also authored several articles. He's been recognized as national level faculty for GST, UAE VAT, GMCS, and orientation course by ICAI. Been a TEDx speaker at Christ University and a board member of Toastmasters International District 1992. Guys, please welcome Rahul. I have Chaitanya Gowda. Chaitanya is currently the Global Vice President and Director of Origin, the world's largest deal origination and M&A platform. Prior to joining Origin, he was a business head and principal officer at Geo Financial Services, where he successfully set up the business from scratch and grew it to the company's IPO in 2023. He has over 14 years of B2B experience and has worked with the Swedish manufacturing giant SKF, growing their business in India. His expertise ranges from product innovation with proven go-to-market strategies to business turnaround and long-term growth strategies. His time at SPJ, IMR and Cornell and working with international clients through various experiences gives him multiple perspectives towards business generation, innovation and success. Guys, Chaitanya, welcome. I have Alexander Rinku. Alex is currently working as HR Director with Oracle India, responsible as Business HR for Oracle Global Business Units and industry verticals. He has extensive working experience across Northam, Europe, Middle East, and JAPAC geographies. He has worked with PeopleSoft and IBM before. Alex is a certified Marshall Goldsmith coach, Conferry Hay Group 360, Neurosciences Leadership Coach, Certified Life Coach, and Gallup Strengths Finder Coach. He has coached C-level and other senior managements within and outside the company in more than 60 countries, and as a speaker at various forums specializing in neurosciences, mindfulness, and positive psychology. He is also a presenter and award winner at World HRD Congress, Bangalore HR Summit, and has been a panelist at several HR platforms. Alex has been invited to be guest speaker at various educational institutions like IIMs, IITs, and Symbiosis University. He's been a facilitator for SHRM and NHRD and a project leader for various CSR, volunteering-based education and environmental enhancement initiatives. Welcome, Alex. I have Chirag Dalal with us. Chirag is a director with High Educate Academics, which specializes providing training for various certifications on finance, example US CPA, US CMA, Enrolled Agent, UK CIMA, and various student and corporate courses on US taxation and evaluation. Chirag is also on the management team at Amplifit, which specializes in technical training in the accounting and auditing domain, as well as on soft skills and leadership trainings. Chirag has 20 years of corporate experience, 12 plus years of diversified experience in the assurance function with member firms of EY and PwC in India and the UK, and 6 plus years of heading the business finance function for a listed pharma company. He is a chartered accountant by qualification. Chirag has led and facilitated audit methodology trainings during his tenure in audit firms and has been a key speaker at several ICAI forums. Welcome, Chirag. All right, so before we get on to the Q&A session, I think relevant to the theme what we have, Innovation in India 2030, it'll be good for our audience to know what does innovation mean to you. Maybe we could start with Rahul. What's happening in your organization and what are the various things the organization is taking efforts to move in that direction?
Sure, thanks. Thank you so much, Dilip. Hi everyone, a very good afternoon. Are you guys doing good? Can we have some energy in the room? Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you. Okay, no sir, Rahul is fine. Okay, so I'll start with something very interesting, right? So I understand that this is a more of a research forum where a lot of research scholars are going to present the papers, right? So numbers are very important. So from that perspective, we all know India is the highest populated country in the world. Am I right? Are we? Have you beaten China already? Yes, right? And simultaneously, we are also the youngest country of the world. But are you aware that 85 crores of Indians are less than 35 years of age? All of us in this room. You are also less than 35, just to mind you. Okay? But the irony is that only 10% of our graduates are actually employable today. We are also one of the largest, if not the largest, I don't have that data, that we are also one of the largest unemployed capital in the world as well. Obviously, being largest populated, even jobs need to be created and entrepreneurs need to be created, right? So this is a state. Why is it so? There are two reasons. There's a big skill gap. One, because the academy and industry, there's a huge gap in between what we teach or what we learn in colleges and what is needed in the practical world. Of course, government is taking up a lot of initiatives like NEP 2020, etc., but it will take some time, but it's happening. No doubt about it. Now, let me show you the other end of the fire, right? There are 25 lakh registered companies and LLPs in India today. Registered ones, right? These are more of a formal organization where it's being controlled by a body called MCA, Ministry of Corporate Affairs. But that's not the real number of businesses in India. We have around 1.5 crore registered GST businesses, which includes your proprietorship and they may be not a very formal organized business, right? That's the real number. And the government is pushing and trying their best to involve technology in every type of compliance that's available today in the world, right? Like for example, GST, income tax, TDS, etc., etc. Now, to handle this Herculean compliance, more so with the advent of technology and the push from the government, we have only 4 lakh finance professionals. When I say that, it includes chartered accountants, company secretary, lawyers, all inclusive, cost accountants, all inclusive, just 4 lakhs. So, do you think that 1.5 crore ratio businesses compliance can be handled by just 4 lakh finance professionals? It's kind of impossible. Even let's assume they are able to do that, right? How many smaller and medium enterprises, SMEs or MSMEs that we call it, can afford to go to a chartered accountant every month that, sir, ma'am, please file my GST returns, file my whatever TDS return, make payments, etc. So they cannot, right? They cannot afford it. They may be okay to go to a finance professional once in a year that, hey, now I've come, someone has done my work, please get the audit done, right? Now to remove this gap, we need to train more and more graduates, more and more candidates in terms of they know how to use it using technology. Now let me tell you something more interesting. We all claim, right, hey, nowadays mobile has penetrated so much across the country that even a rickshawala or a panwala may be using a mobile phone. That's true. But let me tell you, everyone uses Facebook or Instagram here, right? If I make you sit, not you, maybe, you may not be the right audience for that, but I'm telling you 70 to 80% of people, they know how to use the mobile phones, but if you make them sit in front of a laptop or a computer, they're not been exposed to. They won't be able to hover around, how do I update my status, how do I change it, etc., etc., right? So that's a big challenge. The exposure towards technology, even basic use of computers or laptops is very minimal, or it does not penetrate at all, not today. So we need to change that fast, right? When it comes to, so you might have understood I'm talking about skill gaps, so obviously I'll be talking about upskilling, right? That's what we are trying to do. Being a chartered accountant, having been faced this kind of skill manpower shortage, so to say, overall, right? So from that perspective, today if you pick up any tech, and assume there are more of commerce graduates here, right? Commerce or management commerce graduates here. So if you see from the technology lens, still there are a lot of companies who have built up their brand at a pan-India level, maybe global level. They're trying to teach Java, HTML, or whatever the latest technology. It could be generative AI, etc. Right? But when it comes to commerce and finance, does not exist today. There may be the whole learning pedagogy today is based on complete theory. At the most, okay, the faculty would tell you, okay, this is what is GST, and post which this is how you file your returns, right? And how do you teach them? They will show you a video at the most, because no one is going to share your credentials to you, right? So a faculty will not share this, the institution will not share this, parents wouldn't give their children as well, because one mistake and you are sure to get a lot of penalties, notices, etc. How do we avoid that? To do that, to solve that rather, I would say, what we are trying to do, we have created a learning platform which is highly practical and very far off from theory. Nowadays, any which years we have very less attention span, right? So we have to solve for that. What we did, in terms of using technology in terms of disruption innovation, we created an exact simulation in the government portal, where you can, as a student or as a candidate, log in, file return, pay taxes, generate EVA bill, create invoices, whatever a original user does, you can do everything. Try it with your hands and just imagine, once you've done that with your own hands, the kind of level of confidence that you would have. And you become immediately employable if you want to, right? Even otherwise, you want to start your own practice or maybe become a micro entrepreneur, or maybe if you are an MSME, you will use it for your own skills, right? But the idea is that can we make maximum people skillful enough so that they get a job immediately after graduate. Maybe you are sitting in a very privileged institution like GM, yeah, they know better opportunity for you, but that's not true for everyone in India. Still, as I mentioned, 70 to 80% do not have that exposure. That is something we need to solve. So this is where we have created this platform, and we did not limit it to only GST. That was just an example. We have done that for all the government portals: GST, income tax, TDS, PF, and ESI. Except MCA, we have built all of them, and anyone can just log in, start reading very basic practical theory, create some base for yourself, and straight away jump into return filing using a lot of experiment tools, etc. So the first time is the first thing we brought in experiments for a finance professional. We have all heard about labs and experiments for science based learning, but this is the first time that we brought something like that. Yeah, thank you.
A lot of good work there, Rahul. Thanks for sharing that. Chaitanya, if you could talk a bit about what's happening in the world from an innovation perspective.
Sure. Thank you, Dilip. Good afternoon, everyone. Yeah. So I work mainly in the M&A sector. I worked quite some years with the financial services wing, and Geo, and even with Origin, I work with M&A now. Now, let's talk about mergers and acquisitions in general. Now, what is merger? I would like to call merger as like a marriage between two individuals. Now, when you are going to not marry somebody because of their operational efficiencies to handle a household, why would you marry two companies to do the same? Yeah. So clearly, we see a big gap in the way mergers and acquisitions have been happening for many years now. This is a 200-year-old industry. People have been doing mergers and acquisitions for nearly 200 years. But it's also the slowest industry to catch up to innovation. And unfortunately, a lot of work has happened in terms of innovating the industry, but not the process associated with the industry. We see multitude of issues when it comes to mergers and acquisitions as a process, which happens across the world. Now, let me give you some numbers. On an average, it takes, let's say, 3 to 3.5 months for a deal to close in the Western world, let's say US or let's say Europe. It takes 9 to 18 months to close in the Eastern world, which is in India, Southeast Asia. Clearly, there is something which we are not seeing through in terms of processes. Now, what is the regular? Just for the benefit of the audience here, whenever you hear me use the word called, it's in the blood, right? We have been speaking about mergers and acquisitions for so many years now that sell side and buy side, two words which come automatically to you. Sell side is anybody who's trying to raise money. Buy side is anybody who's trying to deploy money. One is an investor, one is somebody who wants the money. Now, though it is let's say an inevitable or undeniable fact that mergers and acquisitions are extremely important for the growth of multitude of companies for many reasons, it's still a very cumbersome process. Chaos is a part of every single mergers and acquisitions. Now let's look at the process. Like first, a company needs to identify that it needs to do some kind of an acquisition. First, they need to invite the fact that yes, I need to either sell this company or raise a growth capital, or probably even acquire a different company. I mean, it's whether you're a buy side or sell side, doesn't matter. You're still a part of M&A process. That's the first step. Second, what kind of company do we do? What kind of acquisition we do? Third, we go to the market and start hunting for companies which is probably right fit for a mergers and acquisition. How do we decide which company it is? Today, there is no doubt in the number of companies which come your way to do a mergers and acquisition. How do you decide which is the company is the right fit for you? There's so many models in the market, but none of them are really digital. It's all manual models. For example, let's say you receive a document from a company saying that we want to look at the possibility, you look at this document from us, which is a 100-page document. And you are getting 100 of them in a month. Are you in a position to go through hundreds of documents in a month to evaluate which company to acquire, where you're going to do one acquisition in a year? It's practically impossible. So many inefficiency in the entire process of mergers and acquisition. So Origin as a company has thought through this for many years, and they decided to build a deal origination and a curation platform, which is purely run by AIML in the backend, where we kind of understand the requirements of that of an investor. We also understand the requirement of that of a seller or a growth capital raiser. And then we match them using an AIML platform in the backend, and then we match them to take the closure. So we're basically saying that you don't have to look at 50 opportunities in a month. Look at 2, probably close 1. So that's the entire phase in terms of how are you going to reduce the timeline for a mergers and acquisition process. The largest of companies to smallest of companies look at mergers and acquisition as a medium for growth. Inevitable, undeniable, and it's a need of the market. A lot of companies merge, competitors merge, because they see operating efficiency after mergers. And that is where this becomes easy. I mean, look at new age youths, right? So when you just, let's say, fresh out of college, you're joining a good merger and acquisition firm, or you're joining an investment bank. Nowadays, youths don't like to build 100-page documents as an IM or CIM or a presentation, which nobody's going to consume. I'll tell you one fun fact. So whenever we build a 100-page document and then present it to the board of an investor, you know what we hear from them? Hey, can you please summarize this into a 12-page PPT? So it just becomes non-consumable document. This is one of the process of the entire M&A, where a 100-page document becomes non-consumable. So what do we do with it? So there is a research from 3M which says a video will help you consume content 400 times better than a textual. So what we did is we built a platform which says, hey, you know what? An entire thing can be condensed into the most intelligent and efficient form, and we call the product as intent, which is intelligent content. Typically because we wanted to kind of see to it that people are gaining what they really want to gain from that 100-page document just by compressing into the most relevant set. So there are multitude of processes which involve a merger and acquisition. One thing which still remains probably unsolved is the human capital quotient. A lot of mergers, fall off because the CEO doesn't like the other CEO, or the board members don't like the CEO of the acquiring company. So there is a human capital quotient which becomes so much more daunting in the entire M&A process, and we are still trying to figure out how to bring in a lot more innovation into that. But that's something, AI is helping us a lot, and there are so many other processes which are helping. But still because we've been the last in the entire innovation circle to really catch up to the process or to the cycle of innovation. So we're taking more time, but it also means there's a lot more opportunity for us to grow and look at like a great centric, innovation-centric approach towards M&A by probably 2030.
Thanks, Chaitanya. One thing that caught my attention is you said chaos is inevitable in the M&A world, right? And we will dig in deeper in the coming few minutes. We would like to understand how does chaos in the M&A world, tag along with innovation as a theme, right? So we will talk about that in a bit. Alex, over to you.
Good afternoon. This will be a bit more energy. Good afternoon. Okay. Yeah, thank you. But I'm not Alex Ferguson yet, so you don't have to call me sir. Actually, Dilip, I have not given my introduction fully. I teach in Jain University as well, so I know many of you students how the cognitiveness works, and I'm also in the business advisory committee for Jain University. So coming from there, let me first talk about HR. I think the esteemed panel here, most of them are finance, but let me tell you, nothing can be done without having the right human resources. That is the most important function, because today I can get money. I have angel investors, I have devil investors, I have venture capitalists, all kind of people. But if I don't have the right talent, nothing else will work. So so coming back to the HR part. What can HR do to build that culture of innovation? So that is the most important part, because HR itself is changing. You have heard about the waterfall method. How many of you have heard about waterfall method of software development? Only a few, because you are from the next generation. Agile software methodology. Anybody? Agile? Can see a few more hands there. Some people know both. The problem is, if you are not adopting agile methodology today, be agile or be ready to be fragile. That's a choice. So even in HR, we are going into the agile methodology model. We have tools like employee listening is all through the digital platform. Coaching is digital, mentoring is digital. We even have the self-service applications. You need a laptop, you go to the intranet. You need to enroll for a program, training, go to the self-service application. Or even you want a visiting card, go to self-service application. We still don't have two things on the self-service application. You can't promote yourself, you can't give yourself a hike. That also might come in the future. So that's going to be really a different kind of employee experience. And when you look at those things, see, most of the things are now by chatbots, or we call it the robot assistants, RPAs and stuff like that. So it is going to be a mix of high tech and high tech. Where can you nurture both? Because you need privacy, you also need that human connectedness, the bonding, the belongingness. So that is the HR part. How do we cultivate curiosity and imagination to fulfill innovation? So when we look at the core competencies at not only my company or most companies, there is a persona, an innovative persona. You will have everything from questioning, inquiry skills, networking, assimilation, inventiveness, and how do we discover new products, services, tools. So that is part of the culture that we are trying to imbibe. And even the leadership style, what we encourage is agile leadership. That means how do we eliminate wastages? How can we co-create? How can we walk the talk? When I say walk the talk, I remember is a gentleman called who was Herb Keller, who was the ex-CEO of Southwest Airlines, the only profitable airlines in the US for a maximum period of time. Used to walk the talk. One day every month he's in the tarmac changing faulty aeroplane tires, the CEO of the company along with the workers. So that is where we want to demonstrate role modeling behaviors. Coming to Oracle as such, most of you would know Oracle as the world's leading database company. But today we are much more than that. We are loud about the cloud. And we are moved into verticals. Many of you would not know the Pfizer COVID tool or the application was developed using Oracle Healthcare. Or you go to any hotel, major top 10 hotel in India, whether it's a Taj or Marriott or Ritz-Carlton, Leela Palace, they use the Oracle software called Micros. So we are in the hospitality space, we are in the healthcare space, we are into telecom, we use the BRM, or the Billing Revenue Management. Airtel and Jio uses our product. But don't blame me if you get faulty bills, because still it's the human interaction. So that is about innovation. And one or two examples I want to quote is, see, until 2 years back, databases were run by DBAs. How many of you heard of a job called DBA? Can just raise your hands? I think, yeah, database administration. So they do things like backups, performance tuning, how do we run. Today we have something called ADB, Autonomous Database. The entire sanctity of the database is taken over by the tool itself, the framework. I don't need a database administrator. So think it's just like a autonomous driving car, where you don't need, or a driverless car. So you don't need a DBA. So those are the things that is going to be in the future. And we are developing a tool with some of the US retailers. We are in the retail segment also. We are the number one player in the retail. Tesco, Walmart, they use our product. And we are trying to introduce a product where you don't, you only need something in your wallet. You carry a card or a chip in your wallet, you buy anything, just walk out. So already that has been introduced in some of the stores in the US. In India we are waiting, so you can't steal a product as well. The moment you walk out, you are billed to the product, unless you tamper with that product itself. So that is the power of innovativeness. How do we move into the next level of orbit? And we follow an inclusive, the diversity is there, inclusiveness, belongingness, equity, and the latest stuff is called intersectionality. How we, have these intersections. Like you have a person who's a woman by gender, who's single, who's differently or specially abled. There are 4 intersections. So that person should get a priority over a single intersection person. So these are all stuff that we are going to do, and that will enable the innovativeness more, because being innovative is never an accident. It has to be part of your strategy. How many of you have heard about the company called Kodak? Yeah, much more. Motorola, BlackBerry, and Nokia. I think almost everybody. What has happened to those companies?
Lack of innovation.
Yeah.
Out of the.
Yeah, I don't need to give you any more examples, and let me tell you, 90% of companies which were in Fortune 500 in the 50s do not exist anymore. So that is the importance of innovation, and I want to give it off to Chirag.
Thank you so much, Alex. I think when you mentioned Kodak, I actually went back to one of my first clients. It was in the business of developing photographs. We don't do that anymore, but to be very honest, if the company didn't survive, the ancillary or the other people along with that didn't survive as well. Coming to myself, so I deal day in and day out with people, like you in the room. I started my career as a chartered accountant. I worked with a few big fours along the way, and throughout. And I started my career when we started doing books of accounts on manual books, right? So I've actually gone and done the Bahi Khatas also in terms of some of my older clients and my articleship days. But we realized that those kind of, we realized very soon that, started with that, we spoke about Kodak, moved to dot matrix printers, you came to others, and now people don't take trade prints in most cases. I split my piece in 2 parts because I do corporate training and I do student training as well. When you talk about students, I was actually in the conference room there, and a lot of students frantically in the learning center there, they were taking a lot of notes. Okay, so we have a lot of professional exams which are still handwritten in India, including your college exams. Of course, the mode of education is changing. We used to have a class teacher. Now you have, along with that, that's supplemented by a smart board. But that's what we remain limited to. COVID brought us a few changes, but again, the medium of interaction with the students was largely through a personal interaction, whether it be through a video or whether it be through classroom session where you're meeting someone offline. Now things are changing. With the whole advent of COVID, with the whole advent of globalization, students, you can do a course anywhere in the world through either a teacher which is based in India, it could be abroad, or you could also be wanting to do a hybrid model where you sometimes want to go back to video lectures. It's a very common phenomenon that most of us who may be doing professional courses are doing. But people are taking that a step further. They're actually going for more interactive courses. People are wanting to go in for courses which are less subjective. When you give an exam, you have the. And I've done my chartered accountancy. We used to, tremble just before the results used to come out. I wasn't a rank holder like Rahul is, but then I used to be very scared of when my results used to, because there was a lot of subjectivity around, the invigilator checking the paper. Now that is being done away with to a very large extent through a lot of the global courses that you're doing, which are equivalent to courses here. So you give your exam, there might be an element of an essay somewhere, but you will have a simulation where you will have largely a multiple choice, and that's what grades people. So that's one way. And on the student side, things are changing. Students are actually going in, and one of the other things is students are actually demanding the kind of teaching they want. It's not always going to be a tick in the box. A common student doesn't necessarily have to go and do a chartered accountancy or a company secretary going forward. They're actually moving into design. Most of the science students are actually moving towards design. They're actually looking at more innovation. That's the need of the hour. And that's how the education system is going to evolve in the next few years. Coming to corporate training, you already studied for 13, 14 years of your life, okay, or maybe 16 years of your life. You don't want to go back and study again. But it's a need. It's like what Alex spoke about. You go to a portal, you go into a training program, you do that training program. But is that something that you want to do, or is it something that you're doing, to learn, or is it something that you're doing to tick in the box? And that's something that corporates have realized over a period of time, that, the whole run-of-the-mill videos with, you put in a video, people will click the button at the bottom, scroll it right to the end and say, this is done. So they stopped that, fast forward. Then they said, okay, fine, what next? But the same videos continued year after year. So now the whole mode of corporate training is changing. People want to get things done on their mobile phones. People want to go in for simulative learning, where you actually get into a situation, a real life situation on the screen, which is like a virtual gaming, which you actually go into and you actually are able to see the scenario. What if I do this? Where does it take me? People are getting into a mode where they want things to be very adaptive. What's in it for me? How is it different for me? So that's where the whole innovation piece in learning is changing now. People are getting into micro learning. People are getting into virtual reality, augmented learning, adaptive learning. And we've all heard about artificial intelligence over the last year and a half. It's been there for some time. It's only that the buzzwords actually happening a lot more. Like we mentioned, that the bots were always there. So from a corporate training perspective, that's something that me and my organization are also working on significantly for young professionals. On the student side, I always felt that while the academics and finance was something that was my core strength area, something that I do, I wanted to focus a lot more on a hybrid kind of a training platform where it would be interactive for students to come back and ask questions. So you give them, even if it's a Zoom platform or even if it's a platform like a Microsoft Teams, it should be a little more interactive for people to come back and either they can come to a classroom. The classroom has the same facility, but giving that flexibility to people and then gradually upstepping it to a more mobile-driven piece is where the change is actually happening for people. But having said that, there will be certain things that will still have the human touch, that will still require the human touch, which is why we're probably sitting here and not on a webcam for you guys. But that's the change that we whether in Amplift or Higher Educare we try to bring out to most of you. Yeah, so that's it from me.
Thank you, Alex and Chirag, for sharing some interesting insights. I think when we look at innovation, broadly, I think we can look at process innovation, product innovation, and technology innovation, right? So if I have to talk about technology innovation, I think every second or third year we keep hearing about new trends. 15 years back, RPA came into our existence and it kind of shook all of us. And now we have Gen AI, which Chirag was referring to. So it's a continuous cycle of getting used to emerging technologies and how we can cope with that. So when I talk about innovation, one thing that comes to my mind, Rahul, is about skill development, right? While there is an aspiration for India to reach a particular level by 2030, along with that, the community has to be equipped with the right skills for us to reach there. So in India, what is your perspective of what is it that we are doing differently, if at all, and what is it that we need to do to get there?
I think, as I mentioned, right, so when you talk about skilling, it's a very wide connotation that way, if you ask me, right? Like, for example, on one side, what government is trying to do, they're trying to upskill all the blue-collar employees, specifically like organizations like NSDC, National Skill Development Corporation, etc. But they're trying to teach, hey, if you don't know anything, even if you're not studied, why don't you learn basic civil work like plumbing, electrician, or maybe a car maintenance guy or something like that. That's on one side, it's a great thing. The second thing what is happening is that on the I would say mid segment kind of maybe concern, you won't call them blue collar or white collar, maybe somewhere in between, maybe a gray collar or something, where like even we are on that segment, right? So at the lower end of the pyramid, but not catering to the top level of the pyramid, where you just help them with some kind of use of technology, but not at a very, not like a Gen AI kind of thing, where you can actually use that and start gaining, at least you can have a livelihood ready. from that perspective. And then on the top side, I think it's quite sorted out. If you talk about top 1% who are highly qualified, they might have got good exposure in terms of, and they're doing good in their life, right? So I think today, if you see, there are two types of India today. One is India, which is like 1 or 2%, like highly educated, maybe most of the people like in this room. But there's a real Bharat, which is like 90%, which has not still gone above the particular level where, okay, I am able to afford basic education, food and shelter for my own family. Right? I think that is more important, and precisely I feel I am at least very supportive of the current government, not being any, not a political statement, but so to say, we can see the kind of changes that they're trying to bring. When the structural changes happen, automatically people start uplifting in their lives. So that's what I feel we are on the right track. Of course, there have been a long legacy where we did not do much, but education plays a very, very important role in all of these, right? Once we say, it's a very famous saying in any education is that when you educate a person, you don't educate that particular person, you actually educate the whole society in and around him or her, right? Because if one person gets uplifted, the people in and around that society, that family, everyone gets uplifted because of a better living and better opportunities.
Right. I think in education, like you mentioned, Rahul, that plays a very key role. And Chirag, you've been in this industry for quite some time now. So what are your perspectives? Are we there, or do you still see a gap for us to get there? What should we do differently?
To be very honest, we're evolving very fast. When we speak about education, it's again driven by the people in the room. They compared to probably what I was 20 years ago, I'd probably be quiet, listen to my teacher, and then just say, maybe talk to my friends that I didn't understand the thing. This audience will not keep quiet. They will let you know what they want. They will come forward and tell you, this is what we're looking at. Can we get there? So I think that moves the pace forward. And of course, but the whole, the technical, let's say the brain in India, the whole, the strength that we have, developing, those kind of modules, developing those kind of, innovative techniques to teach is only a matter of time away. I'll give you a very small example. I actually met a lady last year. So she works in an edtech platform, a rural edtech platform in India. What they do is a lot of these regions, like what Rahul was mentioning, when we talk about a lot of the rural population don't have an access to a good school. They didn't have the space for a school, but what they did was they did have a small room where they could actually put up a large interactive TV screen. They've actually been going out and teaching up to the 10th standard in English and the vernacular languages, sitting in Bangalore and sitting in Chennai, to at least about 30 different villages. They're catering to that. Students have been coming up with amazing results, and that's where your upskillment actually comes in. So we have the potential. It's just about that initiative being multiplied in a lot of places will do wonders.
Awesome, perfect. Thanks, Chirag. So, question to you, Alex. Like you rightly mentioned, HR transformation. Typically, we hear about finance transformation, those kind of journeys which the companies embark upon. So, in my view, I would like to know, there are two parts. One is HR is a function undergoing transformation. What are the challenges around it? And two, when an organization is going through transformation, how does HR function support that journey of transformation or innovation?
Yeah, thanks for the good question. So, two parts to it. So, now I was so much into the innovation mode that I forgot the first part of the question. If you could repeat that.
Yeah, so the first part of the question is, HR as a function, when you undergo innovation or transformation, what are the challenges associated with that?
Okay, got it. Like we had my fellow speakers speak about M&A. M&A through marriage also starts with M&A, then RR, AIJ, it gets a bit aged as we go across. Most 70 to 80% research shows that 70 to 80% of M&As fail, or they don't bring in the accretive value. Because 1 plus 1 should ideally be 11. But if it's 1 plus 1 is 2, I think still the M&A is failed. So it is moving in a change situation, and for any change, it is not M&A alone, but any change. Today they say the half-life of change or transformation is 6 months. So if you have not changed yourself in 6 months, totally a 360-degree change in your thinking, beliefs, it's called system thinking. So if you don't bring that change and you are not disrupting somebody, be ready to be disrupted yourself. So the number one thing what HR does is about the systems belief or how people think. Today it's an hyper personalized work environment. That means it's like Savile Row. Most of you not heard about Savile Row. They are the world's number one soap stitchers. You need to go 20 times to London to fit your suit. You don't get ready-made stuff there. So that is the hyper-personalization of somebody. Even in HR, we get somebody who will put on Slack something and he will call. Somebody who will send an email, he will not call. Somebody will message us on WhatsApp only on weekends. Or somebody will send a message only at Friday 10 p.m. to show I sent a message on Friday. Your HR has not answered till Monday. So 3 days have gone by. So there are different methodologies of cultural affinities, and work style, personal preferences. So that's what it's called, the hyper personalization. So how do I create that bespoke model? In anything, so how has HR changed in one way? Before it was an isolated function. Today, we try to integrate other functions. This is called co-creation. Many of you would have heard about design thinking. If you have not heard about design thinking, that's a must for every job. And just like the founder of IDEO, one of the design thinking shops, he says, fail fast to succeed quick. So how do we create that culture? When I talk about diversity, the biggest diversity I would say is neurodiversity. The perspectives and dimensions of thoughts. If Chirag or Chaitanya or Dilip here, we had 1 hour of discussions before we came, and hopefully our conversation will continue after this as well. But we all come from different functions, different kind of methodologies, frameworks that we are using. But at the end of the day, what's a framework? A framework that works. For me, in my personal and professional journey. So that is what HR has done, a tectonic shift. Unlike those earlier days, we come to you. Because when you look, I worked abroad before I came to India. Big change that I see in India is HR is just like going to the police station or going to the lawyer or for a root canal treatment. Nobody wants to endure that. The difference between root canal treatment and going to HR is they say root canal treatment, the pain inside the dentist chambers. You are given a painkiller. We don't give painkiller also. Your pricing is so and so, it remains that. And mostly they say will revert. Revert is endless. There is no timeline for revert. But today we move from a transactional mode to transformation mode. How can we, transform people, get them onto the next level of orbit? Either you lock potential or you unlock potential. Even we're talking about training, we have also encountered the Vedantu and other sites, Skillsoft, Harvard Management, or all that. But the issue is, when you look at research, people who have undergone training, there are two possibilities. One is they stay in the company longer, or they leave immediately. So 50% each, it's a dichotomy there, two parts. And when we do research further, deep dive into matrices, people who have stayed after the training is people who have had a career path, a defined career path. Whereas the others are who have stagnated and they've outgrown their jobs and roles. So how can we create, today our systems create automated learning paths. You just tell you want to be a leader 5 years from now, you want to learn inspiration leadership. The program will throw up, these are the 20 things that you can do. Because we have moved from pedagogy was teaching children. Today, I don't see any children, we don't, forced labor is not there even in education, beyond 10th. You have to do on yourself. So we move to andragogy. That's adult learning. Andragogy is also outdated today. It's utagogy. Utagogy is how do you do experiential training. You are the CEO of myinc.com. That's it. Because the earlier days you could take a horse and horse will drink water or choose not to drink. But today's horse, we have a multi-generational workforce. But today's horse will decide, do I drink water or do I need Bacardi or vodka? But I hope you got the message, right? If you want to be rich enough to go to London 20 times for stretching a suit, you need to be in HR, not in finance.
That's the key message. Right. So thanks, Alex. So Chaitanya, you were talking about M&A industry, being close to 200 years old as a concept. So what I've been hearing is there is a sudden rush of madness. Everybody wants to join the bandwagon of innovation. So what's happening in this world that there is so much of desperation for organizations to jump onto this bandwagon?
Yeah, thank you, Dilip, for that. So I think it's better late than never kind of a situation. But before I actually answer the question, I remembered something about what Alex mentioned. There used to be a poem which is called by Auden Nash, which is called as "This is going to hurt just a little bit," and there the entire concept was that of a vicious circle where a patient goes to a dentist so that he doesn't have to go to the dentist. Very similar to Alex's analogy of going to an HR but not wanting to go to HR eventually. In terms of M&A, I think people have realized and companies have realized that M&A has become inevitable. And when you start dissecting the process of M&A, 80% of the work in an entire M&A process is still administrative, which means there is so much of content evaluation during an M&A that the decision making itself becomes extremely confusing at the end of the process. So you evaluate for 10 companies under the same banner, and hence you're not able to take a decision at the end of the day because the decision making process becomes completely diluted when you evaluate these 10 companies. And the reason for that is 80% of the job is administrative. And that is the reason why people realize that one of the ways of exponential growth will be only if you figure out the fastest and the quickest way to do an M&A for an exponential growth. Now, I'll give you an example. There is a data processing company out of US, it's a listed company. Huge. It's a multi-billion-dollar company. Now, I just had a chat with them last week. They said, Chaitanya, we want to kind of do an acquisition out of India. And we are okay to do an acquisition in the mid-size market. But we want somebody who can supply. This is a 100-year-old company. And they said that we want a new-age tech company which is going to turn the way my data can be consumed by customers. Okay. Now, they said, okay, great, this is fantastic. What is the timeline? They said, within a quarter, if I don't get that company's products embedded into my ecosystem, I know there is a different startup which will start beating me. So, the sense of urgency has changed the game altogether in terms of innovation. People have realized that if you are not going to do this efficiently, but also quickly, you're just going to be, losing out in the entire game. And this is one of the reasons why even Jio, like when I worked there, Jio decided that, okay, I'm sitting on, let's say 10 million Kirana store data. Example. And they said, okay, now what do I do next? I want to generate income from that. Like, what will I do with the data if I'm not going to make any sense out of it? Okay, now what is the next step we do? Then we give them some products which they can consume and I make some money out of it. So we decided we'll give loan. One of the way of doing loan is you go to the bank, you go to RBI, apply for a banking license, apply for NBFC license, you have your in-house capital, you lend to them. What is the other way? You do an arrangement with SBI and say, okay, starting tomorrow, you take 30% stakes of Jio Financial Services and you start giving withdrawal loan starting tomorrow to 10 million Kirana stores. And that's what we did. Because the implementation process from a 2-year timeline came down to a 1-month timeline, a 1.5-month time. So the need is constantly getting evolved in the market for quicker mergers and acquisitions because that is going to render that kind of quicker result. Only companies who are going to grow don't do mergers and acquisitions, but companies who are going to become Fortune 500 and want to exponentially grow and kind of break the rules really do mergers and acquisitions. So growth is not defined by whether the company is going to do mergers and acquisitions. A company which is not going to do mergers also grow, but there is a limitation. So to break the barriers of limitation and the constant movement in the market when it comes to innovation and when it comes to catching up. Everybody wants to catch up. I remember, in 2000s when I gave my first college interview, somebody asked, we are world leaders. What does it stop? What is it that we should do as world leader? I said, you need to increase your quality. And they said, no, we are world leaders. What quality are you asking us to increase? I said, well, if you're not going to increase, somebody else is going to catch up. Then you're going to be second best. So people have that urgency to continuously do something more, something big, and that urgency has caused a sense of innovation. Even boring and slow, snail-paced industry like mergers and acquisitions. I worked there, so I can still tell you, with a lot of, conviction that this is not fast. It's slow because it takes a lot of manual intervention. And one thing which Alex mentioned is absolutely true. Even in mergers and acquisition, forget about post-mergers and acquisition. Pre-mergers and acquisition, human capital quotient becomes an art of greatest importance. I have seen more than 50% of the deals falling off because the management don't like each other. They're not treated them well. They're not rated them well. They're not shown the right books at the right time. They have a sense of somebody hiding some information. It's all perception, right? At the end of the day, it's still human capital quotient. Emotions run really high with mergers and acquisitions because we're talking about multi-billion-dollar deals. So, these things are probably the most forefront reasons why innovation has become completely inevitable in an industry like M&A.
I think that kind of explains why it is bound to be so chaotic as well, to the point which you mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
Right. So, Chirag, in EdTech industry, do you see M&As happening too frequently? What has your experience been in this space?
Those will happen. I'll give you maybe not EdTech, but if you look at there's a significant, really large CA coaching center called JK Shah. It's very prominent in Bombay. That's where it started. A big brand in itself. They were acquired by Varanda last year. So again, it's not an tech platform per se, but they do have a medium of education which is largely online. But it was for a specific course, not even for that concentration. And then what they started doing was they started building in other courses onto the same platform. Of course, the piece on EdTech, we know at the end of the day it will still be the content which is going to drive how the organization works. But to an extent, the hybrid model is something that is here to stay. You will need EdTech, but like I said, from an education perspective, you will need some bit of that human element to be coming in, as long as the subjectivity of an exam or a qualification continues to remain. So the moment you try and move the subjectivity out completely and you bring in adaptive learning to say, which is already happening with a few courses. So you grade yourself low on a few sections of the exam, automatically what will happen is the remainder of the exam will start becoming easier for you. So the student becomes very complacent and he's okay. He's happy that he's grading it well. But at the end of the day, what the system is already doing is it's already graded him low at the first section itself. So the remainder of the questions, even if he answers well, which are easier, will not carry the same level of marks or the same weightage of marks. Now, on the other hand, And that's something that's happening a lot with the global courses, the way they've been evaluating exams, the way they've been designing it. They've been making it very adaptive. So I know I'll digress a little from the question, but yes, as long as you're able to take the subjectivity out, I believe the EdTech M&As would happen quite a lot. You will be consolidating a lot over the next few years.
Right. Yep. Yep. Sure.
So I feel generally M&A, right? What I understand, to my limited understanding, is that it's just a norm. Irrespective whether it's edtech or any industry for that matter, right? Consolidation has to happen. It happens in any industry. So that it goes, then plateaus, and then it falls. Right? That's how it works generally. Not so stronger hands would be bought by very strong, or maybe, as you mentioned, right? So even I have a question for Chaitanya. I'll just ask in some time. But what I see, if you see Byju's, right, which is like India's poster boy in edtech, right? They're in an acquiring spree. They acquired offline, online, edtech. I would say like even these kind of players, like completely offline players, left, right, and center, at crazy valuations. Now I know people have suddenly started talking about, oh, India's edtech is gone. I strongly believe it has not even started. So we are not even scratched the surface. One bad accident does not define our industry overall, right? So there's a long way to go. And considering India's population and the kind of education that you need, it's just a long way to go. And a lot of new, good, innovative companies would come up. And when they come up, naturally consolidation would happen and equation is going to happen. We are going to see a lot of them in the next 5 to 10 years. And a lot of multi-billion dollars unicorns, as we call it, would definitely crop up. But one question that I have for Chaitanya, you spoke about M&A from a growth perspective, right? Like if you need to grow, you need to do M&A. But that's from the acquirer side. What goes in the mind of an acquiree? So basically, if I'm getting acquired, right, a company getting acquired, what is the founder's mindset, or maybe the owner's mindset, promoter's mindset? Is that do they want to cash out, or do they don't believe in their own idea? Okay, now I'm ready to sell myself.
I think we find different kind of founders. So let's say somebody who builds a company for 20, 30 years. And he says it's time and I don't want the legacy to continue. So he'll be more than happy to cash out and then have a great retirement life. But we also have a very aggressive set of founders who are looking at an M&A wherein they want to sell out the companies because they feel that they have brought the company to a maturity level where a big player's hand will take it to the next level. So then we cut out two kinds of deals with them where we say, okay, the founder is going to work with you for the next 2 years so that the strategy is intact. And that's a prerequisite condition for an M&A like that, where you say, okay, founder's legacy or founder's thought process and strategy shall not be diluted by this company for the next 2 to 3 years. Or we have another set of founders who say, okay, I'm done, I'm going to the next step. So I found a problem, I've solved it, I've handed over to the biggest firm to take it forward, I'm going to solve a different problem. So we have all these three kinds of, let's say, founder mentality, where we say one of them want to stop, another one want to continue, and then give it in the hands of somebody who can increase the scale 10 folds or 50 folds. And another side said, okay, I have solved a small problem and and I've solved the solution by an M&A, and it's for them to take it forward from there. But I'm going to solve a different interesting problem, which is also the intent. It's like founders are like children. So they get super excited when they see a problem and they want to solve it, and they become like, behind that particular problem till they actually find a solution towards it. And we find all these three kinds of people are very interesting. And this is the kind of mindset we see with the different set of people, this is across geographies. It's nothing pertaining to the Eastern world or the Western world. Everywhere you have similar set of founders and the same set of aggression.
Right. Thanks, Chaitanya. So Alex, we'll come back to HR function. So in Oracle or any MNC, if you look at HR function, what can HR do to drive innovation? And what are some of the factors that drive innovation in HR function?
Yeah. So HRC, that's what I said. The dated way how to look at HR was, okay, human resources. We have some resources, you take care of that, mostly in a reactive stage. But today HR has moved much ahead. And I personally work as a business unit HR. That means I have to speak the business lingo, not HR. HR does not work.
So I start with what is the outside in approach in each of the industries I work, like a telecom or a communication. I look at what is happening. Is it 4G, 5G? I go to North India, they might say Hanji or Nanji. So what are the intricacies? What is the subtleties in play? So I start with business because our role as HR is to make it a win-win for business and HR. And how do we bring those, align those strategies together? So that is the big shift which is happening in HR. I guess years back it used to be somebody who speaks well, who just like a politician, you just go and say hi, bye. And that's a great HR guy. No longer. Today, you have to show the top line, bottom line, what is the ROI? Because otherwise, HR function would be extinct in a couple of years. So that is where, before maybe HR was on the table. Today, we are at the table. That's why I'm with the August business audience, being only HR. So, and I would prefer a lot more HR to be there in business forums. So, how do we create that invigorating culture where we virtually confront people for change? Because when you look at, I was talking about neurodiversity or the neuroscience aspect, because everything is in the brain. Brain resists change. Any event, brain looks at life or death. Performance appraisal is death. Your boss is calling you, it is death. One of the directs is calling you, it is life. Exam is death. You have a cultural function, somebody is coming, some singer is coming, Taylor Swift is coming to Jain College, it's life for everybody. Everything it's a dichotomy. And the brain does not love to learn. We love instant gratification. You put something on WhatsApp, can I get 20 likes in 20 seconds? That's a good measure of success. Not doing CPA or CA, which is which will take 3 years to 5 years or even more. We want it instant. At least CPA, you have objective questions. You can get to know the scores quicker. Otherwise, CA for many people was continuous attempts. CA. So how do we change that? That is also a practice. How can I Netflix education or training? If all the Jain University courses were a Netflix movie, I'm sure there will be no bunking. All of us would love it. So how do I make learning interesting? Just like play. That's why the term has come, gamification, leaderboards. And how can we learn, collaborate together? How do we make the culture interesting? Like they say, the smell of the place. That's a culture. You go to Starbucks blindfolded, in 2 minutes you know that's Starbucks. You may not be a star, not having bucks also, but there you are part of Starbucks. So how do we create that change models or bring that neuro pathways for you to learn? So that is a big thing that HR can facilitate or be an enabler and driver. Because brain does not allow change. I want to be constant. I want to end with a poster I saw. There used to be a ice cream parlor in Church Street about 10 years back. It was called Big No. You just have that ice cream. They are all natural flavors. You come to the cash counter. Those days you don't have all this you pay, I pay, UDI, all those stuff. When we are still paying by cash. And they had a box there. A see-through box kept, and the poster on the box was, if you don't love or like change, leave it here. So they used to get a good amount of tips. So that is the change that we want to bring in. If there is change and there's a positive change, that will create that innovation culture by default.
Great insights, Alex. Thank you. Chaitanya, We keep reading news articles on merger and acquisition happening very frequently off late, right? I think that's the trend, right? So do large companies look at M&A the same way as small companies? I think it's an add-on question to what Rahul had asked you earlier.
Yeah, thank you. So I think the large companies look at M&A differently as compared to the smaller companies. I think for larger companies, one is they typically have a strategy in place for M&A. So which means that they know in the next 5 years they need to acquire 3 companies in these specific, let's say, sectors or geographies. But for smaller companies, it's more to do with slightly less and ad hoc decisions, mostly because they say, okay, I have a company, I'll give you an example. So let's say 2 large companies, one being, let's say, Jio. Now, Jio has a plan of the number of acquisitions they want to do in the next 2 years. And there are reasons behind these acquisitions that yes, we want to become retail chain. So, Jio has done some basic acquisitions out of India, some kind of a merger with Manish Malhotra, Ritu Kumar, Gap, Mark and Spencer's, Hamleys, there's so many names you can take, Superdry, and a couple of names like that. Now, that's with the thought process that at some point in time, they wanted to launch Azorte, which is their, let's say, tier 1 or top class retail brand, and where they wanted some limited set of people with a lot of innovation and a lot of AI-driven store. So next generation AI-driven store where they're going to attract the upper class society, so to say, and spend much more, no discounts available, but only higher brand rates. So hence the acquisition started 2 years prior than the actual launch. I have another company simultaneously, which is into the aerospace division. So they are manufacturers of aerospace components and supply to US. 80%, 90% of the revenue comes from US for them. Now they are looking at doing an acquisition in US by setting up a US subsidiary because they want to do IPO in the next 6 months. So this will boost up the valuation. They have another company, they have a US presence, they'll boost up the valuation for IPO, they're going to do a successful IPO, and hence they want to do an acquisition, which is not even in the roadmap or strategy till December 2023. So one of the biggest reasons for large companies, one of the biggest differences between large and smaller companies is smaller companies decide what is happening today in the market and then takes a decision about M&A. Larger companies anticipate what will happen 4 years, 5 years down the line in the market and hence take an M&A decision. And at some point in time, the smaller companies will grow up to that ladder and take probably similar kinds of decisions. But right now, this being the startling difference in terms of how an M&A works in the mindset of that of a founder. That's something which is quite different.
So, yeah.
I worked in a listed company before where we've done, I completely echo what Chetan is saying. You have the plan in mind, you have a plan, you need to get somewhere after 4 years. It's not an immediate requirement. You know where you need to reach, and that's the mindset with which we would have normally approached it. As a business finance lead, that's something that I would want to take. But that's more like a mature company. The same entity probably 5 years ago would have thought slightly differently, more in terms of getting the funds in, reaching up to a certain scale where you could start looking at the future. So completely echo what Chetan is saying.
Perfect. So Chirag and Rahul, would like to get your perspectives on micro-learning, right? If you could probably explain what micro-learning is to the audience, one. And then we have emerging technologies like AI, Gen AI, and many more to come in the years, right? A combination of these, are we headed in the right direction from a EdTech or education perspective to reach 2030 goal?
So I'll tell you where that thought came in. So a lot of times, first thing is when you talk micro-learning, the word micro itself is what you're learning. It could be a tablet. Started with a tablet and came down to a phone. People want flexibility. So they want flexibility not just in terms of something in their hand, but also the fact that they can do it when they want. Also, from an organization perspective, organizations are not, or even for that matter, even the edtech sector, sometimes you're not in the, giving that training with the intent of just compliance. The intent is very different. The intent is to, understand whether your people have learned. And that's what, Alex was talking about also. So when you're building that AI platform and you're building micro-learning, what it primarily gives people is continual learning. Even say, for example, I attend a session here today. I will not retain it a week later, maybe a month later. I will need a refresher training. What's easier for not everybody's got the time right now to come for that refresher training. What becomes easier is someone to hold a phone. You've got an app which gives you a refresher set of questions in terms of whatever you've done just 2 months ago, gives you that continual learning, and people are in a lot better place, and they can do it at their own time. Was talking to an auto company. What they realized was when they're actually going in for car services, their people were required to attend to those smaller platforms, so that they know how to service the client, what components they needed to check, what were the different checks that were required to be completed. This was all something that was available on someone's phone. A guy on the shop floor did not have to come back to office, get onto the laptop, and then do the training as a compliance. So micro-learning with adaptive learning and with AI is what is going to be the future.
So I totally agreed with Chirag, right? Just 2 points that I would like to add. One, with micro-learning, what is changing there, as I mentioned, right? Everyone is not exposed to laptops and computers. So that education can reach to the farthest or the remotest corners of the country very easily because it's in their power in their hands, right? And even smartphone has become cheaper thanks to the OEM, thanks to Jio for that matter, right? Even the internet connectivity has come. So that is one good benefit of it. Second, recently I'll give a certain example. I met one company, very early stage startup. They have hardly 4 enterprise clients. What they've done, they built a bot. What they believe is that long form videos is like history. No one wants to watch 4 hours of video and then learn something. So that bot sits on your WhatsApp, on your Slack, where while working, I want to learn something, say for a topic on M&A. Straight away, just go there, just type that, automatically throw some quick snippets of 2 to 5 minutes of video only on that topic that you want to learn. So no one wants to do the whole course. Google was there, right? But that is more of reading, finding the relevant content was very tough. Using AI, they've done, okay, I know this is my learning. Based on my profile already, they have some data about me and what I am reading, what would be relevant for me. Like I am a novice in M&A, he's an expert, so we won't get the same content, but in a very crisp form, in a very different format. So that is the mix of both micro and this AI.
Yeah, I mean, totally a bombastic combination. Yeah. So Alex, would like to hear your views on innovators' dilemma.
Yeah.
So what do they go through, and the emotions behind it, the experiences.
Thanks. So, see, an example, the innovator's dilemma, or the concept is actually from the book, best-selling book called Innovator's Dilemma by Clayton Christensen. So he is a Harvard Business School professor, and he talks about basically what is the difference between sustenance innovation versus disruptive innovation. So what is the difference? See, most companies by default, like if you look at Apple sales this year, where the stock has come down, and Microsoft was for some time the costliest company on the planet, was because of their falling sales in China. Now for the iPhone 15 series. So what happened was one is definitely the recession. 2 is the innovation that you are seeing, because you cannot make the keypad any smaller, and unless we have to have smaller fingers as well. God has not updated so much. So all those features come into play. Or even when you look at, I'm going back to the innovator, the innovation mind, because that does not play in a framework. The same Steve Jobs, many years back, you would know, he was fired from Apple. And the headline in New York Times that day was Steve Jobs jobless. That was the headline in New York Times. And when he comes back from the backdoor entry through the NXT and all those stuff, he made Apple the foremost thing. And they see even the keypad of the iPhone is designed because he had worked in some kind of language and how the phones work and this particular word semantics or something, in that area. So every bit of your knowledge is important. Not only so, what I advise to all the students here is don't stick to your domain alone. If you get to learn a language, take that. Bonjour, monsieur. Comment allez-vous? Or you want Spanish, hasta mañana, mucha gracias. So anything will build in new neural networks in your brain. That is why that change factor is required. So when you come back to the innovator's dilemma is also the same thing, because we want to milk the product to death. You have the S-curve, sigmoid curve, and ideally there is a tipping point where your next series should come in. Or there should be a cost differential, there should be a price point, there should be a core advantage that we are creating, the unique selling proposition. So unless, if that is going in a diminishing returns way, just sustaining, that is what happened to Kodak, Nokia, BlackBerry. They never thought somebody else would take over, because nobody is going to be deliberately extinct. Even the dinosaur never thought, and that just happened. So they were thinking this will go on forever. BlackBerry will happen. Finally, it became Crackberry. So whatever it is. So so innovators' dilemma is that how do we go beyond existing customers? And that is where I was talking about the principle of design thinking, where one way to avoid the dilemma is co-creation. Start with customer empathy. Start with prototyping and be an iterative model throughout. So your customer should come first. Because I just saw a Federal Bank ad which had the best of both worlds. What they had said is, it is not just our app, but it is app. So they combined, though it's a Kerala company, they combined the best of English and Hindi to bring that ad. So not the app, but app is the most important factor for us. So as long as we are with the customer and we are ahead of, because the innovators, another part of the dilemma is sometimes you are too ahead for a product. It is never real. So are you in that blue ocean strategy, or do you want to be in the red ocean where you are competing with the existing customers? Because today, you can be, before 10 years, it was plug and play. You could be a Microsoft or some other company. I need to buy a product, especially in the technology space. To move to a new product of a different company would take 5-6 years. So I sold a product, but next one generation is made. That was a plug and play model. Today, everything is on the cloud, just like Netflix subscription. People can buy a SAP today, move to Oracle, go and buy an Oracle, move to SAP tomorrow. It is plug and play. That our customer remains tomorrow as well. So because that is why the product releases, before once a year was a great thing in IT. Today it is 15 days average. Every 15 days can I have 12.1.1, 12.1.1 something. So that is the kind of disruption model that is coming into play. But the challenge or the dichotomy or the dilemma is, where do you kill your old product and where you give birth to a totally new product? So that is where we need to build up that culture, mindset, and sometimes look at the future more than the present. Because today is the tomorrow you worried about yesterday.
Thank you, Alex. Right, so we move on to the final question before we open it to the forum. I think this is an important question for the student community over here. So evidently we know that there is a gap between the industry and the academia, right? And that's the reason why educational institutions call industry speakers so that we bridge that gap, right? If I request all of you to share a couple of points to the student community, what is it that they need to act on or do now so that it's going to help their future 2 years, 3 years from now on?
So just a couple of 2 cents from my side, right? So one, you need to be very relevant with what's going on in the industry today. Make use of Google. Read as much as you want. I know there is academics, you need to give exams, clear it out, do that, but only to that extent that is good enough. But you need to understand what is relevant, what is coming. Like, as you said, the next 2 to 3 years, what's the hot thing. Second, the best way to learn is to do internship. Do as much as possible. I know you like watching Netflix, partying on weekends, that's fine. You need to do that. I'm not against it. But what I'm saying, Sanjay, if you can find a good company and don't get stuck with just one company for a long time, it could be like short intensive 2 to 3 months and do as many as possible. Either ways, after your graduation, if you go for an MBA, that is going to add a lot of value in terms of brands as well as your learning. Any which ways, even if you don't, when you join somewhere, you would have already got exposure at corporate culture, how they work, what works, what doesn't work. And also, if you get a chance to work in the founder's office in some smaller startup, even if they're not paying you, does not matter. Learning is something that you will get enormous learning. You will see how fearful even those founders are. We are very scared, we are very agile, and suddenly we do a lot more scrum meetings than anyone could ever think of. And as you mentioned, we take calls just like that and we dump it again just like that. So it's an enormous learning that you can. And anyways, you have nothing to lose, right? The founders would lose, the company would lose. It is, you will get that learning. That's from my side.
Yeah, I think I second ground in multiple things here. I think one of the important things you guys should be mentally prepared is for the fact that there's going to be a lot of things which you learn in the academics in college, but when you start working, there's only some part of it which gets utilized depending on the kind of job you do, because you learn everything, right? You're a generalist here. So you are, jack of all trades in the college. So that's what you're prepared for. When you go out, you're expected at some point in time to be, let's say, something more specific in the kind of role what you're doing. So try and delve deeper into what is the kind of interest you have. And like you said, I think internships is a great way to realize that. Even if you guys can do some part-time internships or something like that with college or with some companies, I think that'll give a great exposure in terms of how the industry is looking at what are the kind of job you would like to do. Because at the end of the day, I am a true believer that passion comes out when you really are interested in doing that particular job. And that you will never know without even doing it. So you can only anticipate. Everybody wants to be the CEO of the company, but do you enjoy sitting in that chair? You will probably know some years later when you are there in the industry. But I think that is one thing important. Second is be open towards what is happening most recently in the market. So keep yourself very up to date with the market trends. Let's say you want to look at specific to the education industry, or let's say something into financial services. You're interested in something in HR or something back into core technology products, like you want to work in towards an IT sales or business marketing, whatever it be. Just keep yourself very well updated on what is the latest trends. There are so many courses available online for you to upskill yourself. I mean, they're the right guys to speak about it, but I think it is there. It's a matter of time that you grab it, and I think that will really prep you all up for the real, let's say, industry experience once you guys pass out from here. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll slightly flip Dilip's question, which was, what should students do after 2 years or 3 years when you're entering the corporate world? My take on that is, my first principle would be remain a student forever. Never move out of being a student. till your last day. Have a quote which says, live like it's your last day on the planet. Work like it's your last day at work. You would have seen some news from Google recently, or many other companies, the job reorgs that's happening. So you might be the best worker, but it may be your last day at work. So be unattached. Otherwise, these venture capitalists are there, MLAs are there, so nothing to worry. So, but live like your last day at life, work like your last day at office, but learn like you're living forever. So that is the student aspect. And when you come into the corporate world, have the ABCD. That's a framework that I've created. I teach in some of the institutions, including Jain. So A is an ally. Find who are the allies for you, who can sponsor you, who can support you, etc. B is a boss. Two people you can never choose in life is a boss and your parents. God gives you that. So, but you can make the best of world with your boss. Can you turn that boss into a buddy? Take feedback, feed forward, especially in the early days. Trouble your boss a lot. And then you get to know. Do your own 360 review. Third is the A, B I've covered. C is the coach. It's not early. Even today you can have a coach. A coach is somebody who will have a general aspect of you, more from the softer aspect. How is your communication? How are you good at storytelling, narratives? Do you have enough humor, or too serious? So all those aspects, the coach will help you. D is the domain expert, or what we call the mentor. Because why I don't want to use the mentor is Ravi Shastri should have been a cricket mentor, not a cricket coach. From the coaching, mentoring, when you go deeper. Coaching is somebody I can coach a BTech person, but I can be a mentor only for an HR person. So that's the difference. And I end with two quotes. One is, don't worry about growing old. Worry about thinking old. If you can stay young, nothing else matters. Age matters only if you are cheese or wine. Last is about customer centricity and how can you bring a difference to your stakeholders, a long lasting, and like they say, the last mile creates the everlasting smile, and vice versa. So the quote goes, it's from Maya Angelou, be the rainbow in somebody's cloud.
Thank you so much, Alex. I'll again be a little specific because I teach commerce. You guys are largely from the commerce domain. One of the few things with AI coming in, people are fearful what will happen to jobs, or will jobs be available. But at the same time, with studies carried out, people are actually equally comfortable with AI because it makes things a lot easier for them. So one is trying to adapt to technology, number one. Second, everything that's been said just before me, you have to constantly keep learning. Otherwise, you're going to be outdated, number one. How do you do that? Now, say some of you are actually going to look for a job. You have certain dilemmas in mind. What course do I take? Should I take a 3-year course, which is the CA? Should I take a 1-year course, which is the CPA? Well, a lot of solutions are now there for you to take bridge courses. So when you're doing that internship, like what Rahul mentioned, which is a great experience in itself, you also take certain bridge courses, which is again cost efficient, but it also gives you an insight of what you're actually getting into. So when you have year or two that you're actually looking out for, your calling, you can actually experiment with a lot of different things. And education never goes waste. So whatever you learn is going to stay with you. But keep making that change all the time. And as you will grow within an organization itself, there will be times when you will be asked to take a certification if you want to go to the next level. That's not a choice that your boss gives you. That's not a choice that the organization gives you. You will have to make that initiative on your own. You will have to grow on your own. Because after this stage, there will be no hand holding. So it's up to you, but there are a lot of avenues available, a lot of small snippets which you can actually take and better innovate yourselves. That's it from me.
So, thanks, Shah. Right, so a lot of key takeaways, a lot of actions which I heard. I hope the student community over here also heard the same, and I've penned down a few thoughts. We now open the questions to the forum. Anything that you would want to know, anything that you would want to ask, from any one of us.
Thank you so much. So my question is, thank you so very much. It was really insightful the entire time we spent with you. Thank you so much for the knowledge. So my question is to Alex. So the way that the world is growing, with all the corporates, on one side there is merit and competence, on the other there is diversity. So is pressing too much gas on diversity? Is it going to choke innovation and the company someday? We see a lot of companies going down that route, and probably the perception, the way that the public is receiving it, may not necessarily be in their favor. So I do want to know what your thoughts are on that regard.
Yeah, no, thanks. Great question. So just coming back to that employment and employability, what I want to state with the key slogan that I use is employment is never guaranteed. Employability is always guaranteed. Like today, for example, AI has taken over, or what they say is taken over. But we don't, for every 10 AI jobs, I have only one person. We don't get enough people. So that is the situation where we are. Are we operating in the niche skills? We've heard about the gig workers or the T-shaped employee. T-shaped employee are those who are master of many trades and jack also of many trades. So that is the full stack engineer. He knows backend, database, middleware, front end, UI, UX. So you can operate in multiple areas. So you have to move seamlessly, not shamelessly, unfortunately. So diversity and you said. Inclusivity and those aspects and versus innovation. All research shows, that is why I was talking about neurodiversity. What happens normally is birds of the same feather flock together. And CA, I'll be with him, I'll be with somebody, and BA, I'll be with somebody else, like that. We did one research, where that's how companies, many of the companies use alumni to bring in, from IIT Chennai, they will tell you, can you bring somebody from here, and they will send them for the day zero placement. Then the chances of accepting that offer is much more, only because of the reason they think alike. And we have our own blind spots. That's why I was talking about neuroscience. That's why they tell love is blind. After the marriage, open both your eyes. Yeah, so neurodiversity is not a bad thing. Any research shows I need multiplicity of thoughts. Anytime you make an M&A, you make any other career decision, ask multiple people, especially those who are divergent. First diverge, then converge. Well, that would be so. Get the multiplicity of thoughts. There is a game plan kind of game which you use for a business simulation. So you get so many different, or if you study the capstone model and stuff like that, you know how to run a business. So first get the brainstorming, get as many thoughts. So that is what DEIB is going to help you. And then when you have so many thoughts, funnel it. So the divergence becomes convergence. Take the best two ideas. Better to brainstorm than brain being in the drain. That's brain drain.
Thank you so
much. I also have a question. My question is there a mutual dependency between talent and innovation?
I thought we spoke about it. It's about when you talk about talent, that how do you hone that talent further? Unless you're not going to be innovative, you're not going to be able to hone your talent. Very simple example. Again, coming from the commerce background, if we talk about continuous professional education all the time. So now whether it be in the form of reading, as much as you can to keep yourself updated. It's also important to be technologically innovative for you to be successful in the profession that you'll be getting into. So your talent and innovation has to always marry for you to progress. I hope that was some answer.
Any other questions?
I would be louder.
Yeah, go for it.
Sir, my question is to Alexander, sir. Like, since you mentioned this gig economy in the previous answer that you gave to them, it was one of my research interest areas. With the onset of this code of social security, did you find any change in the quality of the gig economy? Like most of the companies, you have 40 to 50% people who are coming from a contractual basis right now. You don't have the on-roll employees. So how do you see that? See, like before some 5 to 10 years, it was seen as an innovation in this HR area. But is it still an innovative idea?
Yeah, great question. But what I would say is it does not matter whether, see, today is the world of slashy workers, and even go beyond gig workers, slashy workers. Who are the slashy workers? You'll see slashes on the LinkedIn, author, HR professional, musician, great cook, etc., etc. Morning I'm working in maybe Microsoft. Afternoon I'm a cook in Ritz-Carlton. Night I'm at Toit, with some drums. It does not matter today where you are. Like even geography is history now. I can be somebody more American than a guy in Boston. The Boston guy may be more Bangalore than the person here. So it is that cultural affinity, the work role affinity. Can I deliver a sense of purpose, ownership, values, and imbibe? It's like putting a tablet. I put a tablet for or an injection for flu. By next year, you don't have flu. I injected purpose, just like Simon Sinek's book says, start with why. I put Y, X, Z, everything into the person, and the person is a great worker. Because today I may not have, in the US, 2 years back, the number of contract employees surpassed that of full-time employees. Because people want that freedom. Or even in India, if you look at 70 to 80%, people do not want to work out of office, given a choice. I think only the ROI and the outcomes matter, not what is your personality, which state are you coming from, what is the thing. Like I always used to joke, in one of the companies I worked, there was even a thing, are you married, or are you marrying, in the near future. And then if it is a team, they will say, no, we don't want to have such a person because they may not want to travel much. But I tell them on a lighter note, I tell them, if you're married and recently married, you never stop hiring such a person. You actually want to travel more after the wedding. So, now only Maldives is out of the option, you have Lakshadweep, so it doesn't matter. So, the kind of worker, I think more important, the superset of the overarching stuff is having instinct purpose, commonality, ideation, values, systems, and can that person create an ROI? Can he be a rainmaker, a change maker, an alchemist, who can turn a base metal into gold? So that is the important part. I don't see the kind of worker, but companies need to adapt. It's a two-way thing. Just like we're talking too much about weddings and marriages, so it is all like that. At the end of the day, a company, every person should be wedded to the company's purpose. And once you find your true north, and if you align that, the type of worker doesn't matter. We even have workers like people can work 4 hours a day. It's called part-time work. 2 hours a day. Tomorrow may come 0 hour also. I don't know how that's going to work. It's called sabbatical. Hope that answers.
No, like, sir, what's the change in quality that you see?
Quality, that's what I'm saying. Quality does not matter. See, now we had the COVID time. Let me tell you, some of our consulting teams could perform better than when they were coming to office. So the same way, what I was telling was, gig workers, if you train them well, and they are embedded with the company's role, and you provide them the same appreciation, you treat them. How do you treat them? And how have you trained them? How have you cultivated, nourished, nurtured them? If you do that, and there are mechanisms, the performance evaluation, feedback, feed forward, all that works for any person. So I think each employee or contractor or gig worker, part-time person, we need to treat as an individual employee and address his concerns, and how we unlock that potential for the person to contribute immensely to the company, then it does not matter. We don't see any dip in performance. Some of the contractors contribute more because we don't have enough people. Now, I want the person who has experience, Indian passport holder was born to the space, I only 2 people. I take them on contractually. So sometimes we don't have choice. Sometimes that works better for a small term project. Or today there are interim CEOs. They come in, they are in the VC, they know better, they just come in for 2 months, 3 months, build everything from scratch. That's called the C2C model. Chapra C2CEO. Everything, doing everything together. And it is not. Today we have fractional CEOs. We have part-time, HR or outsourcing model. Yeah, so it is working. Otherwise, we would not have had that. And we are going to see more. Let me tell you, we are going to have more of hybrid working, more of remote working. Because at the end of the day, people want flexibility. Can I manage my work life? Can I merge them? And so it works for everybody. And at the same time, I know where you are coming from. There are some bad apples who may be moonlighting, doing some stuff. So we have 3 terms for that. Moonlighting is you're working at least in 2 companies. Sunlighting is you're working in 1 company but doing 3 persons' job. You get burnt off. Starlighting are people who want to manage their bosses so well that they take the light from the sun. So we have all 3 kinds of workers. So if you got apples, we need to manage. Otherwise, it's working great.
Right, so I think that brings us to the end of the panel discussion. Before we wrap, I want to thank all the panel members, Chirag, Alex, Chaitanya, and Rahul. Big round of applause, please. And I really hope that this panel discussion was meaningful and there were few key takeaways after this 90-minute session. Thank you so much. Over to you.
Thank you everyone on DAS for such an informative and diversified session. I deem it my privilege to thank and extend a heartfelt gratitude to the moderator and panel speakers for spending their valuable time and enriching the session, and knowledge of the participants on behalf of the Faculty Research Cell from Shodhana School of Commerce, Jain Dean to the University. I request Professor Rachna Saxena, School of Commerce, to hand over the token of gratitude to Mr. Dilip Patki. I request Dr. Amrinder Singh, Professor, School of Commerce, to hand over the token of gratitude to Mr. Rahul Saria. I'm so sorry, Saria. I request Mr. Uttam Pai, Assistant Vice President Academics and University Relations, Miles Education, to hand over the token of gratitude to Mr. Chaitanya Gowda. Dr. Meeramani, Librarian, School of Commerce, to hand over the token of gratitude to Mr. Alexander Rinku. I request Dr. Sharmila, Associate Professor, School of Commerce, to hand over the token of gratitude to Mr. Chirag Dalal. Thank you, everyone. We all break for lunch and come back for the research paper presentation at 2:20 p.m. as per the allotted slots. The tracks are displayed outside the conference hall. Post the paper presentation, the high tea is arranged. You all are requested to assemble back in the same conference hall for the valedictory, where the best paper will be announced. Students are requested to get back to their classes, please.